Okay, good evening, everybody. Tonight, I hope you've had a great week so far and that your weekend was fantastic. Tonight, I'm going to have a bit of a rant about my country, Zimbabwe, and what is going on there that's really got me peeved. The Zimbabwean president, Emerson Mnangagwa, who I have about minus 20 lifetimes about. Okay, I've got no time whatsoever for the man. None. I know his history. I know what he was like during the Mugabe era. I know that it was that Mugabe stayed in power. So about him are not good. But apparently he put out an invitation. He actually, I think, sent a letter to opposition parties to invite them to a round table talk to sort out the situation in Zimbabwe, to discuss how to sort out the situation in Zimbabwe. Now, look, I don't have any time for ZANU PF whatsoever. They are the ones that messed up the country. They are the ones that have killed and maimed and raped and pillaged and violated and everything that you can possibly think of that a dictatorship would do to a nation, they have done. They are still in power from 1980 until now. The only thing that they changed was the head of the cockerel, because their symbol is the cockerel, Jongwe, in Shona. By forming, not forming, but by doing an inter-party coup to give them the power, one section of ZANU PF, the power to oust another section of ZANU PF, because they all split up into sections, although it's one political party. So getting rid of Robert Mugabe didn't change anything. It just changed the head of the cockerel for the murderer. Mugabe was the planner. Mnangagwa was the instigator. He kept Mugabe in power by murdering in the most horrendous ways. People disappeared. They still can't be found. They still haven't been found. He had the notorious 5th Brigade, which slaughtered the knickers out of Matabeleland. Under false pretexts. He had the CIO, which was the Central Intelligence Organization, and they operated like the KGB. It was absolutely horrendous. things that have been done to the Zimbabwean people, the fear and the terror and that has been meted out on the Zimbabwean people it's beyond belief. Okay, how the people have survived, how they've even managed to try and have a life. So ZANU-PF for me is is the devil incarnate. MDC has always been the main opposition party. For some reason, they fall short of getting rid of ZANU-PF. At elections, they trampled on. We've had the most comical results, okay? We all know that ZANU-PF stuffs ballots and, ballot boxes and does all sorts of things, okay? Terrifies people, blackmails people, uses food to get votes. We all know that. But somehow MDC has never been able to get in there and sort them out, and that's it. Excuse me. We're having an awful season with allergies. Anyway, coming up to the last election, which was last year in 2018, after inter-party coup, which wasn't a coup, which could have been a coup, which it was a coup, okay? And the army was used as security guards, as private security guards for Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, who's now the vice president. Anyway, from the minute the coup happened, but even before that, people kept on asking MDC to bring up, people call it reforms. I don't. I call it the alignment of the constitution, which has never ever been aligned completely, okay, in Zimbabwe, because the parts that have been left out by ZANU-PF, okay, are the parts that would regulate them. Look, people have this myth that reforms are going to cripple ZANU-PF and they won't win an election. I'm not that. That's not part of my fantasy, okay? I look at ZANU-PF in reality and I deal with what I see in reality. Reality is that they will do anything and everything to stay in power. Okay, they have to stay in power because that's where their money comes from. That's where their reason to live comes from. Okay, they have to have power. And they're petrified that if they lose power, the people are going to retaliate. I don't think Zimbabweans would. I really don't. But anyway, they want the power because with the power, they can do what they want to the country and to the people. They don't care about the international, what do you call it, okay, what the international community has to say. They don't care about that, okay? I mean, they've been condemned, they've had this done, they had the most stupid things called travel sanctions or targeted sanctions slammed against them by the US, okay? And all they did was use it as a soapbox, okay, to really loot the country. And it was blamed on sanctions. sanctions were supposed to stop Mugabe traveling and some of his cahoots, okay? It never stopped them from doing anything, because instead of going to England or America, okay, to go and spend stolen billions, all right, they just went to Saudi Arabia and Hong Kong and Singapore and China and Russia and things like that. So, I mean, it stopped them from doing nothing. Okay, and it ruined the country beyond recognition. Okay, with those targeted sanctions came a lot of offshoots, all right? And the problem is that ZANU-PF people are involved in business, in everything. They've got a finger in every pie in Zimbabwe. So businesses were affected whole scale, okay? It's crippled the country. It's crippled the country completely and utterly. But it hasn't changed anything. It hasn't got rid of ZANU-PF, and it won't. You see, the minute there's a very old saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And just think about that. Yes, a lot of people didn't like Mugabe. I mean, but for me, to take the guy and shove him in a corner and put handcuffs on him isn't going to help. It's not going to influence anything, because you're taking somebody that's already got a hackle up, okay? You're sticking him in a corner, and anybody, an animal, a human being, whatever, okay, you put them in a corner and give them no way out, they're going to fight back. And that is what happened. Okay, so nothing was ever solved, and the people of Zimbabwe are the ones that suffered, not the international community. The international community couldn't be bothered, but the people of Zimbabwe suffered and are still suffering. I mean, my two nephews, okay, unless they leave the country, they are fully grown adults, okay, and they've never ever had permanent jobs, because there are no jobs. And if you want a job, you must belong to ZANU-PF, and it's just, you must have somebody in your pocket in ZANU-PF, okay, and all this kind of business. So it's, those sanctions might have made some white man over there in the US and in the UK and in the EU and things like that feel very high and mighty and ever so pious, okay? But the problem is that the people in the country have suffered beyond suffering, all right? Beyond suffering, for some white man's folly. Now, if these countries that decided they were going to put these sanctions, those sanctions were a mad panic, okay, after land grab, which happened to be blacks grabbing land from whites, white farmers, okay? And that, of course, oh, that's the biggest sin in creation, all right? So we slam sanctions. And we're going to make ourselves feel really good and so pious, and we're going to call them targeted sanctions, and they're only going to affect certain people within ZANU-PF. They're not going to affect anybody else. Really, what world do you people live in? The sanctions destroyed the country and the people because you gave on a golden platter a beautiful, absolutely fantastic soapbox for Mugabe to stand on and to loot the country completely dry, that not even the Reserve Bank has money in the bank. And all under the guise of, it's the white man that put sanctions, look how you people are suffering. The people were even more frightened in the rural area. Okay, the town people work out things for themselves. but the people in the rural area are petrified. So your brilliant sanctions have done nothing but destroy a country and destroy people. They haven't done anything to Mnangagwa and to Mugabe and to Chiwenga and to all these other guys, okay, this elite ZANU PF little clique. They never stopped them from doing anything. Not a thing. Because you know what? There's the rest of the world for them to go to. And they went. And they spent those illegally got dollars. They squandered them. So it stopped nothing. It might made you have felt all pious and wonderful and starry-eyed and everything else, okay? But it didn't stop them from doing anything. And look, I'm just a housewife. I call myself street educated. I didn't go higher than a Form 4 in education, okay? And if I can work that out, all you people with PhDs and doctorates and Lord alone knows, can't you work that out for yourselves? Couldn't you have sat with Mugabe and compromised? Isn't that better? Isn't that the way to teach somebody something? How are you going to teach somebody something if they're outside? It's like a child in school, right? You don't like that child in school, so you're going to lock them out of the school. But they're still going to learn. What are they going to learn? They're going to go to the streets. And they're going to pick up all the bad things on the streets. So what have you taught them? You haven't taught them anything. It's exactly the same with Mugabe and his people. You could have compromised. You could have played to a certain level, okay, and kept Mugabe happy and kept Zimbabwe working. But no, you had to get all peeved and twisted and stupid and targeted sanctions. Don't think about the people. No. Those targeted sanctions have been going for how many years? I'd say a good 15 years. And what have they changed? They've changed nothing. They've just ruined a country that now is going to take billions and billions and billions to rebuild. And now, you see, people have to get to the stage where, look, ZANU-PF is in power. Whether it's there legally or illegally makes no difference. It's in power. It holds the keys to the kingdom. It has done for 40 years. It's not going to change now. And MDC refusing to go to those talks with Mnangagwa is not going to change anything. It's not going to change ZANU-PF. They'll just turn around to the international community and they'll say to the international, look, we made the offer, they refused. They went around laying down a whole lot of laws and everything like that. Instead of coming into the room and speaking and fighting from within, no, they stand outside and have temper tantrums and jump up and down with their clapping their hands. Do you know that the international community is so fickle that at any moment they could turn around and say, well, Mnangagwa has tried, MDC is not interested, we're going to deal with Mnangagwa. And there we go. And then what has MDC done? Nothing. They're going to stand outside and make demands. Do you know what? Get inside MDC, get there at the table, okay, and talk. Because you say that this is for the people. You know what? Make it for the people. Because all that you are showing everybody is that there's a power struggle. You want to be in power and you want ZANU-PF out. Why can't you go to the table, sit there and talk and make the people, for the first time in 40 years, the most important thing, instead of your pride and your power hungry? The people need help now. They don't need to stand outside in the cold and the rain and the desert again. They need to have their representatives in the room, sitting at the table, talking. You know what I want? I want to stick MDC and ZANU-PF into that room, okay, into a room, lock them in there, and tell them, until you can be adults and you can reach compromises and you can put the people first, you're not coming out. And no ZANU-PF guy in government is going to get any pay until you people sort it out. Standing outside the room, making demands, what power have you got to make those demands? You're not in the room. You have no power at all. It's just like some old woman sitting on a curb, flapping her gums and hoping somebody is going to listen to what she says and pay attention. Nobody's going to pay any attention to you. You've got to be in that room. You've got to be fighting for the people, not for power for the party. No, for the people. ZANU-PF is in power. Get used to it. The time has come when a solution has to be found, and it has to be found with ZANU-PF in power. Because that's the only way you're going to show the people that they are the ones that come first, not your need to be in power. And that's the only way you're going to get rid of ZANU-PF. Sitting on the outside, flapping your gums like you've been doing for how long, ain't going to work. The international community is tired of Zimbabwe. It's tired. It's like a flea on the dog. It's irritating. Because why? Because nobody wants to take these people on and get in there, roll up your sleeves, sit down and deal with them. They're not going to go away. You can make as many performances from outside as you want, okay? It's not going to stop them. We had those demonstrations where people were killed, and they're still killing people now because of those demonstrations, beating up people and everything. You think a 3-day demonstration is going to stop? It's going to make ZANU-PF say, oh, wait a minute. Ah, no, hey, we've got to step down now. We're illegal. No. I said it before. I was shouted down. I'll say it again. It took them 40 years to stay in power. 3 days ain't going to do a thing. A revolution isn't 3 days, then a break, then a month later, another 3 days. No. A revolution is day by day by day by day by day. That's what a revolution is. Every time you stop, you give ZANU-PF the power to do what? To get themselves together again, to get reinforced, to get this, to get that. So when they come back even harder. But now this time, they didn't stop when the 3 days came up. No, they've carried on. Why? Why? Because they know without the demonstrations going on, they can now get to the people one by one by one by one. And that one person has got 20 or 30 people around them, okay, who then are filled with fear. And so the fear wave goes. It's like when you take a stone and throw it into a pond. You start off with a small ripple and then get bigger and bigger and bigger until it's a huge ripple. That's how ZANU-PF works. That's why they are so strong. Because it's 3 days and then it's a month and there's nothing. Or a week or 2 weeks. The minute you give them time to breathe, they've won. An MDC refusing to go into that room and make the people the most important thing. They've just given a golden globe to ZANU-PF, to Mnangagwa. This is like kids in a sandpit. The one child wants all the sandpit, the other child wants all the sandpit. So what do? The one that's sitting in the sandpit at the moment, occupying that sandpit, refuses to move, and the one outside that wants the sandpit for himself starts throwing stones and everything like that. But that one that wants the sandpit, he ain't going to give it up. You got to learn to deal with ZANU-PF as it is right now. MDC needs to get off their power brigade, rocket binge, whatever they are on, and get into that meeting. Get into that room and sit there and start acting like adults and putting the people first. Forget the power. Forget the power. Without the people, you wouldn't have a place to stand and negotiate in the first place. If you can't put those people first, you're not worth it. You're going to stand outside and make demands. Tell me one time that's ever worked with ZANU-PF. Oh, I know somebody will bring up, oh, SADC, you know, SADC was the one that got the GNU together. No ways. Mugabe thought that by agreeing to the GNU, he was going to have a ticket to ride in the international community. That's what he thought. That's why he allowed the GNU. He allowed it because Mbeki and those other people had promised him this and promised him that, and how the international community was going to accept him and blah, blah, blah. And Mugabe's fickle. Mugabe is so fickle. He believed it. Because all Mugabe ever wanted was to be accepted in the international community. That's all he wanted. That's how cheap he was. And that's why we had the GNU. Not because of SADC. SADC held his feet over the coals. Oh, what a load of rubbish. You know, really, people, I don't know what it is. Okay, I don't know what it is. The excuses that people have to make up for them to be able to accept anything but reality. If Mugabe didn't want GNU, there wouldn't have been GNU. I can promise you that. He wouldn't have listened to SADC. He wouldn't have given a damn about SADC. He never did, because SADC is what? SADC is just an old man's club, okay, where they all sit and drink whiskey and swap girls and whatever else, okay, and boast about which one's car is bigger and which one's house is bigger and which one's shopping, international shopping spree was bigger. They're not there to care about the people. They're not. They never have. It's a dictator's club. That's what it is. And Mugabe was part of it. He was part of it. So, please, MDC, you're supposed to have a young and vibrant leader. Okay. So why isn't he thinking with a young and vibrant mind? It's not the time to stand outside making demands and flapping your arms, because I can promise you nobody cares. We're going to take any notice of you. Nobody. It's time to put on your big boy panties and get in that room and start acting like adults and putting the people first. So MDC leadership, stop it. Stop acting like a bunch of toddlers in a sandpit and show some maturity and some common sense and some logic and some ability to put the power aside and to put the people first. Because without those people, you wouldn't have the power to stand there and flap your arms and flap your gums and make demands and everything like that. You wouldn't even be an entity in Zimbabwean politics if it wasn't for the power of the people. Now, that power belongs to the people. You are supposed to be there representing the people as servants of the people. So, put your big boy panties on, okay? And get into that room with Mnangagwa and get talking. Get talking. Because shouting from the inside ain't going to change anything. I mean, shouting from the outside ain't going to change anything. Shouting from the inside, nah, not a good thing. Being strong and firm and calm will get something for the people. And that's what it's all about. It's not about you and your power trip. Because without the power from the people, you would have nothing. You would just be an ordinary Joe in the street. The people trusted you that you would always put them first, and you haven't. You've had a temper tantrum outside, flapped your gums, flapped your arms, okay? And ZANU-PF now is supposed to crumble. Oh, please. Get into that room, get talking, get hashing things out. Get fighting from inside, not from outside, because from outside, you can do nothing. You can do nothing. A burglar can't burgle a house unless he gets into the house. He can't stand outside there shouting, oh, give me your this, give me your that, because the people inside are going to make damn sure that they don't let him in. So he can stand out there flapping his gums, okay. They ain't going to give him what he wants. To get the stuff that he wants, he's got to get into the house. So flapping your gums outside, making all these demands, you have no basis. You have no foundation to make those demands on. Get into that room, get talking, and fight from the inside. Okay. I have done enough ranting for tonight. Good night, everybody. By the way, just a thought. May your gods go with you. Until the next time.